think it's really important to put your attention and focus and your energy on things that serve you and away from things that don't. But I call this opportunity we are living in a kind of an opportunity as a business owner, as a person, just to reboot, to recalibrate, to readjust, to reset. When was the last time you actually complimented yourself or appreciated something you've done? It's actually to slow down enough to say, you know what, I'm doing pretty good to stay up on the surfboard. Wise employer will affirm the employee and say, you know what you're doing here matters.
Hi everybody, it's Paddy here again. This time I'm joined by John Doran from Ways to Wellbeing. So John, thank you very much for taking the time to come and have a chat with me today.
It's a pleasure, Paddy. Delighted to be here.
How are you keeping?
I'm feeling great, Paddy. Making the most of the situation. It's strange times, but with strange times comes opportunities, and that's what I'm preferring to focus on, the opportunities.
Yeah, and that's probably a big message that we're sending out to our customers as well. It's to focus on the opportunities now. What is there, as opposed to the negative, because the news is just full of nothing but negative news. So how do we look for the opportunities?
Well, you know what? We're living in an age, Paddy, where our attention has been both weaponized and commercialized. And I think it's very important that we reclaim our attention. I mean, I'm telling people not to be a passive recipient of the news. I mean, if you want to you could sit in front of a television or listen to a radio 24 hours a day about COVID-19. I think that's not good for your mental health, your resilience, or your attention. So to be more conscious consumer of the news, maybe turn it on consciously once, maybe twice a day, and leave it at that. If you need to know anything more than that, Paddy, if there's something pressing, trust me, you'll find out about it. So I would tell people to reclaim your attention. I think it's really important to put your attention and focus and your energy on things that serve you and away from things that don't.
Okay, yeah, So and it's so true. Myself and yourself, John, we share a huge passion for emotional intelligence, and I think now it's more important than ever to be bringing emotional intelligence into the workplace and into our lives. Maybe if you'd like to tell us just a little bit about emotional intelligence from your point of view and how you feel teams and company owners could benefit from it.
Well, I break down emotional intelligence, Paddy, into three component parts. The first part is the awareness. So the awareness of your own emotional weather. And I always say to people that, feeling mad, bad, or sad is not a mental illness. It's part and parcel of the human experience. So the first part is awareness of how you're feeling. The second part then is related to awareness is regulation. How do I regulate my emotional weather? When I'm feeling in a not so good space, how do I deal with that? How do I manage that in a way that's productive and beneficial both to myself and the people around me, the people who rely on me and lean on me and who I lean on? And then the third part, which is equally important, Paddy, is empathy. And that's, how do I relate to the experiences of others? If I was having this experience, how would I be feeling? So empathy is very important. So they're the three legs of the stool of emotional intelligence, Paddy. Awareness of your emotional weather, your ability to regulate that in a way that's meaningful and positive and productive for yourself and other people, and your ability to empathize with the emotional weather of others. For example, not everybody has been a big fan of Boris Johnson, the British PM, but I think we can all empathize with somebody who is suffering, who is sick, and who needs our best wishes. So irrespective of political allegiances, I've seen on social media platforms, rightfully, a kind of a wave of empathetic feeling towards somebody who's suffering, irregardless of whether you believe or share in his affiliation. So I think all of those component parts, Paddy, make up EI, which I think would be more important than IQ in the world that's being created as we speak.
Yeah, 100%. And it's really, like, from an empathy point of view, and I did a video on this a couple of weeks ago, that, so having empathy for our teams, but also for, if we're on a team, for our business owners, for the managers, because they're having to make decisions that they don't like making. And I suppose, there's a big message there for our teams to be looking out for the business owners as well, and to practice empathy for the business owners. How do you feel about that, John? And what?
Yeah, I would agree, Paddy. And I'm doing a bit of work. One of the amazing things we have as human beings to be able to reflect on our actions and our inactions. And I'd like to make the distinction, and Brené Brown does a lot of work on this, between guilt and shame. Guilt is when I've done something wrong, so it focuses on the action. But shame is when I've done something wrong and I'm actually taking it, I'm owning it myself, and I actually feel I am bad. And I think there's a distinction between guilt and shame. We can all be guilty of things we've done or not done, but there's nothing to be gained by shame. The opposite of shame is self-worth. And I think it's really important. I mean, there's 3 messages I would give people to stay standing when the storms come, Paddy, that I think is kind of forms the cornerstone of my thinking and emotional intelligence. The first one is that I am enough. So to actually say, as a business owner, as a person, you know what, I am enough. And Howard Behar, who's the former president of Starbucks, and I'm going to share with you this for the first time, Paddy, and your listeners. He got in contact because of the TED Talk I've done. And he said, you know what you said there about being enough has really resonated with me. He said, I'm a very successful businessman. I'm kind of known as Mr. Starbucks, but for a long time, I kind of felt inadequate. I kind of felt an imposter. And he said, what I say to myself is, I am enough, I have enough, I do enough. And I think that's my own personal mantra. I am enough, I have enough, I do enough. As a business owner, as a parent, as a person, as a partner, as a parent. Really important. The second one, Paddy, is, and I think we've all been made to do this, is to slow down. We've been a area of business, and we've kind of had to collectively slow down and take a pause. And a pause is very important when you're living a life in fast forward. And a pause is a conscious break just to gather yourself. And I call this opportunity we are living in a kind of an opportunity as a business owner, as a person, just to reboot, to recalibrate, to readjust, to reset. So where am I going as a business? Where are the opportunities here that lie? So the second leg of it is to slow down. And then the third one, Paddy, is just to cultivate consciously an attitude of gratitude. You know, when you lower the threshold of what you're grateful for. And I think, you know, we're not in an underground bunker. We're actually getting this opportunity to communicate here, Paddy, via Zoom. What an extraordinary times we're living. And so to consciously look for the good in your life, to look for the good in your business. And I think if you have that mindset, that attitude, I think it will serve you and your business very well going forward. So those 3 are, you are enough, to slow down, and to cultivate consciously an attitude of gratitude, and to lower the threshold of what you're grateful for. I mean, if you're, you know, I didn't have to go looking or scouring for food. It was in the fridge this morning. I got up in a warm, comfortable bed. So I think it's never more important to consciously look at the good. We're not in an underground bunker. We're on our sofas, looking at Netflix, checking our emails. We're not too bad.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're very fortunate, and we've a lot to be grateful for. As you say, it's taking that time just to slow down and to notice everything that we have.
But we can take that time, Paddy, to do one of 2 things in this present moment. We can choose to look at the positives and the benefits and the opportunities, or we can choose to feed our fears. Now, that choice is for us all. Which one will have the most benefits for you going forward? Feeding your fears, or actually feeding or fueling the positives and the opportunities and the ability to contact, to develop relationships? Maybe you've got a contact in your business that you haven't got around in quite some time. Maybe it's kind of got lost in the thick surf of small things. Maybe now is the opportunity to reconnect, to reestablish that link, that when this is all over, and it will end, Paddy, that relationship can renew itself, and maybe from that connection, you never know what good could come from the benefit of the next connection.
Yeah, so true, so true. Another area, you know, around the whole EQ side of things, you know, and I think it's something that we're doing at the moment. And, well, I know that I'm doing it, and I'm seeing it everywhere. Is we're adapting. We're adapting to the way things are now, and I think some people are still, they're in their heads. It's still a little bit crazy. But even if you look at what we're doing now, John, we're on a Zoom call. Whereas, you know, last year you're in our office. We're having this conversation in our office. So there's a huge amount of adapting going on. And I think slowing down to notice how we're adapting is probably a very important thing to be thinking about now as well.
I completely agree with you, Paddy. And 2 points on that. Firstly, human beings are extraordinarily adaptable creatures. Agility is part of our DNA. It's not something that we have to flex to or strive for, it's actually part and parcel of being human. And the second part of what you say there, Paddy, is equally important, is that when was the last time you actually complimented yourself or appreciated something you've done? It's actually to slow down enough, say, you know what, I'm doing pretty good to stay up on the surfboard. So making the decision to consciously be on good terms with yourself, to affirm the positive in terms of what you do, I think is really be important. I mean, I see so much agility and adaptability. Companies that never even had a website, Paddy, that are now conducting and transacting business online. So this is actually maybe kind of hot housing our agility. But you're dead right, to affirm the good in our positive in our practice in terms of what we're doing, and actually seeing the opportunities that it affords us to grow our business and deepen our relationships.
Yeah, because it's really interesting. You're familiar with our industry, so a lot of our customers, printers and sign makers, and I'm seeing on LinkedIn, I'm seeing on Facebook how they've adapted. So they're selling a lot of PPE gear now. They're doing face masks with perspex. So just when I see that, I go, there's resilience. There's our customers adapting, and I think we're going to adapt even more over the coming months, or however long this is going to go on for.
And it's also afforded a lot of businesses within your domain, Paddy, to actually be conscious of the contribution that they're making to the community at large. And a lot of companies, have a kind of a social outreach. But actually, you mentioned about a lot of companies pivoting to the kind of the PPE space. That's actually allowing them to connect very deeply and in a meaningful way with grateful customers who are really grateful of their ability to flex to this space really quickly. So it's allowing companies to connect in a very personal way with their customers that heretofore perhaps wasn't as explicit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, and that's great. I just every time I see a post on social media from our customers, I just go, well done, lads. You did a cracking job. Did a cracking job here. And just one other thing, and something that I know you're fascinated with, I'm fascinated with is happiness. So when we look at happiness, and we have everything that we need to be happy right now. So if you were to talk about happiness in the workplace right now, John, how would you talk about it? How would you explain it at the moment?
It's a great question. The first thing I would say is the secret to happiness, if there is one, and to put it in a soundbite, really is to pay more attention to what makes you happy and less attention to what doesn't. There is no work that doesn't have a downside, Paddy. I don't care. Think about fantasy work. Maybe it's a footballer. Students sometimes say to me, sorry, I'd love to be a footballer. There's no possible downsides to being a footballer. And I would go back and say, well, what about going to bed at 9 o'clock? What about being told what to eat, when to eat, if you're eating at all? Being treated almost like a 13-year-old. So there's a downside to every job. Again, it comes back to your focus. What do you choose to focus on? To focus on the positive? The second thing, Paddy, I would say is, in terms of a work and happiness, is to focus on meaning. The Japanese have a phrase called ikigai. What gets you through the gates in the morning? And you mentioned again PPE. Maybe a person who felt disconnected in work, that his work didn't make a difference, it didn't seem to see the contribution. Now he's contributing to something bigger than he is. He's actually really stepping up to the plate and showing leadership. So to say the meaning of life is to have a life of meaning. And work plays a huge role in all our lives. And actually to focus on the difference that my contribution makes can make a huge difference to my happiness and well-being in work. That I'm actually not atomized or siloed. I'm actually part of something bigger than myself. And we're hardwired for meaning, Paddy. We want to feel that our contribution matters. So the wise employer will affirm the employee and say, you know what you're doing here matters. So I would say to help that, to notice, appreciate, and thank people. To notice a job well done, to thank it and appreciate it. No employee I've ever met, Paddy, overdosed on appreciation or suffered a substance.
Definitely not. Yeah.
And may I say that works both ways. That also goes to employers as well. So there's a reciprocity involved in that. And this affords this opportunity, or this pandemic affords us an opportunity to reconnect with work in a way that's special and affirming, that kind of reminds us of what gets us through the gate in the morning. I mean, to have a job at the moment is a gift. I mean, there's a lot of people at the moment that would love to be in our positions, Paddy, at the moment, who are afraid, who are fearful. So to actually have a job to re-establish or renew our acquaintanceship with it in a different way. If you change the viewing, Paddy, you change the doing. So this opportunity presents to look at our work through a different lens. And you will suddenly find that happiness comes in the door when we let go of the attitudes and beliefs maybe that don't serve us anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very good. Yeah, I agree 100% with you, John. 100. You mentioned leadership there, and I personally think this is a huge opportunity for everybody to stand up and to do something now. When you think of, so I suppose I have two questions here. The old, from talking to some people, what I'm seeing is because people are going into, business owners or managers are going into this place of fear, right? All the skills that they've learned from a leadership point of view over the years, some people are just dropping them and they're moving back into this old command and control style of leadership. And I think fear is making them go down that angle. But to ask you the question, like our teams don't need that command and control side of leadership now. Our teams are coming to work or they're working from home. And we no longer, when people are coming to work, they're coming to work with their hearts. And I think from a leadership point of view, we need to remember that. We need to remember that now, that our teams are bringing their heads and they're bringing their hearts to work. So from a leadership point of view, what's your view on what leadership is needed now, right across the world, I suppose, John? Yeah.
It's a really good point, Paddy. And you mentioned, I think, the answer in your own few comments there, that there's an opportunity here for people to step up to the plate and to redefine what we mean by leadership. Leadership is not the Donald Trumps and the Boris Johnsons of the world. Leadership is what you do moment to moment to lift yourself and other people up. I think we got a really great demonstrable action of leadership there. A quiet action was Lead Varadkar, who quietly in March, without telling anybody, re-registered as a doctor, went back literally to the front lines. He didn't advertise that. That came out unknowingly to him. That's quiet leadership. And so there's quiet leadership all around. Obviously our frontline workers in the health service are showing incredible courage as well as leadership. We can't all do great things, Paddy, but we can all do small things with great love. And I think showing up in our lives, showing up in our work, that's quiet leadership. That's very powerful. I think that's the kind of leadership that will keep businesses afloat in the times we're in. And you're right, Paddy, command and control is not going to work. This is distributive leadership. This is asking people to answer the clarion call, to do their bit, to do the best they can with the ability that they've got and the time that they're in, to show up. And I think that's the invitation. So I would say that the kind of leadership we need now is invitational. People, you're relying on the goodwill of people, on that heart space, and you're completely right. This is a call to action. And I think, you would be pleasantly surprised by the amount of people that answered the call that maybe felt that they were never considered leaders. But actually, each and every member of a team is a leader with skills, strengths, and abilities to contribute that in some cases have largely gone untapped. Now is the time to tap into that quiet leadership that each and every member of the team possesses.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I love that whole idea of quiet leadership, and there's a lot of that going on. It's just when you see it, and it's beautiful to watch. Yeah. John, do you want to tell us just a little bit about yourself, ways to well-being, and
yeah, I'm an author, Paddy, and educator.
Yeah,
I'm an author and educator for the last 26 years, and I have the opportunity now to also go into businesses such as yours. It's a great pleasure meeting yourself, Leo, and the team. I wrote Ways to Wellbeing. The international edition of the book has just come out, and I speak on the theme of how to thrive in a world of busy. And I've been speaking to people all over the world lately on webinars and seminars, and it's been a great privilege to connect with people in a different space. And in fact, some of your listeners might be interested in my TED Talk. And if you Google John Doran plus TED Talk, it's available. And on Twitter, A Way to Wellbeing. And I think it's a chance, Paddy, for like-minded people to kind of focus on the positive and to control the controllables. And I see this as a great opportunity, and I call it strategic optimism, Paddy. And can I clarify what that means? It's not a kind of Pollyanna hit and hope that everything's going to be okay. It's kind of a conscious placing of our attention on the fact that entertaining the possibility that things can get better, that there's nothing wrong with us, that what's right with us can't fix. Same with our business. And I think if we entertain that kind of strategic optimism, I think it will serve us well in the days, months, and weeks that pan out, because we don't know when this is going to end. But I think what we can do is, what's this whole time teaching us? How can we get better on the other side of this experience? And what can we use in this as fertilizer to get better as people, as businesses, as employees, as employers? There's a kind of a collective solidarity in this that hopefully won't get lost. What's our legacy going to be? And maybe that's a question I would pose to your employees and to your business owners. What do you want your legacy to be here as a leader, as a business owner, as an employee? On the other side of this, and we will get to the other side of this, how do you want to land? What is that going to look like? They're the questions I think will be energizing, will be empowering, and will be hopeful, and will add strength to the community that you work with.
Great, super, John. Well, listen, that's all my questions for you for now. So I really appreciate your time. Thanks a million for taking the time to come and have a chat with me today. And
pleasure, Paddy. Stay safe, stay well, and a kind regards to all who listen to this, and stay well.
Yes, and I give my team send all the regards. I was talking to someone this morning, so they were saying say hello to John. So big hello from all the crew and in Sign+digital. Okay, thank you very much.
Take care.